Hello, welcome to Hashknife Hangouts. Today, we are joined again by Ashley Chapin. We have cut the episode originally from one long episode to two shorter episodes, and the topic is energy. Ashley is a horse wrangler from Dunrovin Ranch in Lolo, Montana, and she works with Brandon every week on Mondays on Teletraining, where they work on a horse to train the horse, and Brandon teaches the trainer telephonically. So he is looking at a computer screen while she is out there physically doing the work. Sometimes it's nice because he gets to stay nice and warm in the house, and other times it's extremely frustrating because he can't get across the monitor. We hope you continue to enjoy our conversation on energy and the fun that we had together. So with that, we'll get back to the episode.
I wanted to go back for a moment to your work, Ashley, in customer service. Did you say you were a waitress? I had to jump out of here for a second, but
Mhm.
you waited tables, or
I've done that. 'Cause- yeah, so waiting tables, I did retail sales for like 4 years, and then I worked at like behind the deli counter, so like food preparation and customer service. So
okay.
just a kind of variety of things.
I worked with a gal that she was about your age when I worked with her, and she'd worked her way through college. She was a chemical engineer, and really kind of happy most of the time, but sometimes not. I mean, we're all going through those different ranges of emotions based on what's going on with the all the static going around us every day, right? And she had talked about when she says, I was a waitress and I was a good one because I brought in so many tips. And it was kind of interesting to talk to her because we worked together in a high stress type of environment, or higher stress. High had to be very good production is what we were at, and that brings stress. Um, and she talked about when she was a waitress during college, trying to make the maximum amount of money she could. And she said, I got to where she says, I guess I asked her, I said, how were you good? How do you know you were good and why? And she goes, you're good as a waitress when they're not yelling at you and they leave a lot of money. Pretty simple. And I went, okay, that kind of makes sense. So I said, how did you do that? Because no two people are alike. I mean, I go to a restaurant and I don't care who the waiter or waitress is, I will try to banter with them because you know what? I'm out to have fun. Let's have fun with this. And some of
Hmm.
them don't like bantering. And so they get the minimum tip, right? Even if they screw up a bunch, but they're very personable, they get a big tip. So she told me that she would read the table was her term. It's like, how many times have you heard me say, read your horse, read the horse? And I thought that
Hmm.
was kind of funny. So she was reading the table and she said, there are different types of people. Some of them just want to have a meal and be left alone. They want to talk
Yeah.
amongst themselves. They just want you to come in, have things provided for them and leave. And if you do that, they're happy. If you try to interject yourself at all, that's a bad thing. They don't want that. Then you're being pushy. If you have a table, she said some of them are, they want to banter. Some of them are making saucy remarks. And she said, you better have thin skin or thick skin because if you want that tip, you'll go along with it. And I went, that's very interesting. So she was really manipulating herself to meet their needs because she wasn't there to train them. She was there to get something extracted from them for the service she was getting given to them. And I thought, very different dynamic, but very much the same way about how you're reading and getting what you need for that. And to see actually
Sorry,
struggling
it's
with,
cutting out so bad.
yeah, struggling with sound. I think it's your end because I'm hearing Calen fine, and you're getting in and out. But basically, using your energy or your ability to read people so that you can get what, or she could get what she needed and they could get what they needed. It was a mutual exchange. Hey, tech guy, can you help us out?
I'm 1,000 miles away. I can't help you with anything.
Oh, give me a break.
No, I think you're right though,
Okay.
because it
Yeah,
does
I'm
it
wondering
does
if it was
depend on people. But go ahead, Ashley. Sorry.
it's okay. I think it was my earphones that were causing it because now I can hear you guys just fine. So maybe I should have taken them out.
Well, let me
Okay,
read.
so
I don't know how much that.
I heard the like waitress story.
Okay, yeah. It's basically, she was not trying to change the table. She would read the table, or like I said, read the horse, and then she would she would provide for them what she thought they wanted out of a waitress, basically to the best of her ability, give the great service, and then at the end of it, it was basically a mutual exchange of she modulated her energy and what they wanted out of her so that they got good service and she in return would get rewarded for that service. And the service wasn't just bringing food, it was how she interacted with them. And some of them wanted to be left alone, some of them wanted to banter, some of them wanted to try to pick her up and take her home. All of those things that she would have to kind of run uh, that line of this is what they need, this is what they want, without going too far.
Yeah. And I mean, I was only a server for like 3 months or so. I worked at Cracker Barrel and it was terrible, but I learned all of that very, very quickly. Yeah. About, like these elderly couples would come in and they just want to have dinner together or breakfast and they just wanted to talk amongst themselves. Or you get a family with a big old group of kids and you got to be like, hey, how's everyone doing today? So you got to kind of like adjust yourself to what's going on in the situation around you. And then there's other people where like I couldn't crack it. I couldn't crack into their energy or anything like that. And it made me feel kind of like awkward that like I couldn't interact with them other than on like a strictly professional, here's your food, here's your water kind of basis. And I mean, those were kind of always like my least favorite tables because like you guys notice I am a pretty high energy person, and it was just like if they don't pick up or respond to that too, I kind of like had a hard time bringing myself back down to that level. And I almost kind of took it personally that like, oh, they just don't like me. But you just have to remove yourself from the situation and just be like, okay, this is what I'm here to provide you for. Let me cover your basic needs, basically.
Well, let me ask this: if you have a table that is, an elderly couple that they're just going out, they're enjoying each other, and they just want to have a nice meal, the energy that it takes emotionally for you to serve them versus the amount of emotional energy it takes to bring in a party with a bunch of little kids, even though you're not having to wrangle those kids or shouldn't have to be wrangling those kids.
Yeah.
How much energy difference is there between that or those two scenarios and then the scenario where you feel like you're awkward, it's not working? That's a lot of energy expended too, right? I mean, I would think, I know how it would feel for me. So explain the energy differences, even though you're doing maybe less work on one where you're just providing a basic, here it is. How emotional is that compared to the other two?
I mean, it like it doesn't make you sad, but it does kind of bring you down, especially like if they aren't enjoying their service or they're just having a bad day or something like that. It brings your energy down, and it like kind of drains you more, I feel like, than being excited, because I'm just like kind of an easily excitable person anyways. I like I'm kind of like running around the kitchen grabbing all the stuff that they need, and it kind of makes me happier to do that than it does to just get complained at the entire time. When they're constantly just like trying to beat you down, it takes more energy to lift yourself back up than it is to already be on a higher level and just maintain that.
Makes complete sense to me. The same thing happens, say I'm not providing what I need to or what I feel that I need to for a horse and they're not learning, but you just keep at it. I do, because you have to make that breakthrough, and they have to be able to start to, even though let's say a horse wants to disengage and they don't want anything to do with you, because that happens. And so I have to just maintain that steady, even, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, this is the way it is, and never change that. Be a very solid influence, and then pretty soon they will come around because you're working with their energy. Or you know what, we are all sucked into more positive energy. We all want to get away from negative energy. So if you maintain that, they come to you and you start that bonding process, like just like you did with Augie with an injury. Even though it's painful, or you're having to give him shots, or you have to dress a wound or manipulate or palpate a leg on his injury, can be painful. But the other part of that is you're also talking to him, you're stroking him. And I watched you talk to him on some of the videos, And it's like, yeah, see, she's making a bond with him. She genuinely cares about this animal and their comfort, and they feel that.
Mhm.
So when you're not feeling like you're making it, you're still making it, even though you don't think you are. And we are, being a high energy person like you are, and I know Calen is like this, even though he's lower energy. And I think I'm overall more lower energy, but I'm all over the range too in here. But I'm trying to be fairly stoic on the outside, maintaining that calm. But in here is where it counts. That's where it really counts. And if we get up with our body, that just amplifies what we're feeling. So getting that horse to come to you, be much more receptive to that, even though that you don't think you're doing it, you're still doing it, because that horse is still reading you. People are still reading you. You know,
Mhm.
relationships of any kind, they're still reading you. So being frustrated, and I have been frustrated plenty, believe me. I mean, there's been times like, I don't know if I can do this horse. I don't know if I, and then all of a sudden, boom, a breakthrough will happen. And
Yeah.
usually, you know, when that happens, I will have an event where I've been struggling. It works. I repeat that. It's repeatable. And like, okay, they get to have some time off now. I need the time off, but that gives both of us a time to reflect, me less than them,
Mhm.
because you finally got them to come around. But at the very least, that reflection time helps, because I've turned horses loose for 3-4 days a week, come back, and all of a sudden the understanding, the training, the workability with each other just takes off. You hit those plateaus, and you got to recognize those plateaus, recognize it for what it is. And the other day when you got frustrated with Augie, you didn't quit. You walked away because you could not escalate. There was nothing. You had no other tools left. You walked
Mhm.
away. You kind of reset. And I know you just were like so mad at me. You had to have been, because I'm like, let's get back in there. Let's make him do this. And if we can do it once, then he's done. Because you
Yeah.
still had to win. And you did that. And you did that. And you're so gracious, because you've never said once, yeah, you really made me mad and you're such a jerk. But I know you're feeling that, because I'm in your ear constantly. And how can that not be annoying, right? But you
Having
Yeah.
him
really,
on the other side of the corral is annoying.
yeah,
Thursday was a little easier without you like in my ear, because I knew you were watching.
Yep.
So I was just like, okay, Brandon's gonna say this, he's gonna say that, but you weren't like in my ear telling me what to do. I had to figure it out for myself.
yeah. And believe me, nobody has control issues like I do. And you can ask Lisa, the boys. That's what makes me a good trainer. I have control issues. So I want to really do things really, really well. But you know what? Even though I do them, doesn't mean I'm doing the right thing. And that's kind of where I was headed with this, is that you think you're doing things wrong. The gross morphology of it is, yeah, you're on the right track. You're doing some small things. Mostly it's not right, but small things are coming along. That will come in, and that large, oh, I'm not doing right, and here's the good things, will change.
Yeah.
And then that is where you're really, where by the time that happens, you're really finishing your horse, or your relationship, and then you're just building solid type of behavior after that. So yeah, and I know I've had people in clinics, just somewhere, who were very, very thin skinned, or they had control issues, didn't want to be told what to do. And it's like, I have literally just like, okay, I gotten out of the corral, let them come to a clinic, pay for me to just stand there and watch them, because they were not taking any instruction. I think Calen was at one of those, and these people were, I could hear behind me going, wow, he really understands how to work people or let people do that. And I'm like, no, this person doesn't want any instruction, you know. So I was like, okay, but they're getting what they need. So different type of thing, but it's about knowing when you're doing right, when you're doing wrong, and you got to just keep at it. And in spite of the fact that I'm in your ear all the time, I'm sure that I hear my grandfather's and my dad's voices in my head when I'm doing stuff sometimes. They're all gone. They're all dead. My one grandpa's been dead for 40 years. The other one about 15. My dad about 5. I still hear their voices in my head when I'm doing something. And it's like, that's uncanny, because I heard those things. I know what they were thinking. I can do that now.
Mhm.
And I'm sure I probably am in Calen and Braden's heads too. Hopefully.
It's just that lasting energy that stays with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. And I think some of that is self-reflection, because I'm like, am I doing this right? What would they think? Is there something that I'm missing?
Yep.
Something that I didn't do right? You know, I'm always searching for that. How can I do this better? So
Well, and that's like having essentially my dad in your ear as well. That brings me to another point because Ashley said something about how it was easier when dad came and visited and you did some in-person stuff for a couple of days. So especially related to energy because it's obviously not a physical thing. What have you done? Because you're distance, like
Mhm.
you're 400 miles down the road. You're a whole state away. What what is it that you do either on your personal time or when you're working with Augie or maybe not and you're just working with the other horses? Is there stuff that you do, Ashley, to try and improve yourself? Because obviously you're working through a telemonitor and a remote control essentially. So how do you try and improve and make sure that you're going down the road that you want in terms of energy?
Well, like I said, it made a world of a difference to have Brandon there in the first place, just so we
Yeah.
could meet each other and kind of, we did exchange our energy. So I could, we met each other as people just to see how we are in person. And it made me understand better like what, and especially watching him with the horses and watching him do the training session, it helped me understand how I need to bring my presence and be around the horses. And so just having someone to like watch basically in the first place kind of set the precedence for, okay, this is the energy that I need to bring. This is the, the rules that I need to set for this horse to follow. But like with the self-improvement thing, I had always dealt with like frustration and I kind of would let it like escalate to the point where, other people could pick it up around me and it would just like not be good vibes at work basically. And working with the horses has really helped me with that because you can't get mad at them. Like they don't know what you're mad about. They know you're mad and then they're going to just turn around and turn into a brick wall on you. But you have to be able to be reasonable and kind of work through it and communicate with them on their level of what you're asking for. You can't just like ask them for something in Spanish and they don't speak Spanish, they speak horse.
Right.
Like you have to be able to come to a common ground with them on what you're asking, what they're capable of, and help them find the right answer. And so working with them has really helped me on like just not getting so upset, not getting so worked up about when things don't go right. Just keep trying until you find that right answer rather than getting upset about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
you know, to me, the whole thing when Ashley and I met, I went over to kind of help out, and Suzanne said, "Hey, I got a wrangler who is interested in doing the teletraining and picking up where the other one left off." I went, okay, and part of that is when I'm going there, you you know that I can be intimidating just being there, right? And
Mhm.
so I'm trying to not be as intimidating, trying to be and keep my distance. And there's a whole thing with male female interaction that is very, very positive, but can be also very, very negative. And I'm like, okay, this is a young girl my son's age.
Mm-hmm.
I need to keep my distance, kind of keep my energy low, but be very inviting. And that's a hard thing to do because it isn't just that, it's every relationship is like that. And so as Ashley and I worked together over a few days, um, very quickly, I felt more and more comfortable around her. And I could tell that she was, I read this and I don't know, maybe you give it the other, your perception of this was that I was more approachable to her over that amount of time. And that, I wasn't going to beat the horse. I wasn't going to berate her. I mean, those are all things that are negative energy that you don't want to. I mean, they're non-productive. They are actually destructive. So we're trying to do teletraining with a horse and her, and at the same time build a relationship between her and I. So
Right.
it's a very, very dynamic, fluid thing from my point of view. What do you think, Ashley?
Well, I mean, right off the bat, I heard you and Suzanne, you were laughing, you were giggling, you were having like a good time. So like I knew you already had good energy to bring in and you only meant good things. So it was kind of easy for me to just kind of like insert myself in that situation and it was just like, okay, let's go. But you know, like I've been yelled at in the face by Marine Corps drill instructors. Like people don't scare me. So yeah, I mean, I've never met a person that I was like intimidated by or scared of. I mean, since then, you know, I was like 16, 17 years old getting screamed at. So it kind of like put me in the right mindset of like, okay, nobody is out there to hurt you. Nobody's, you know, there to scare you, especially when you were coming to our ranch to help me. Like I knew you only had good intentions to bring. So it made it really easy for me, at least, to just kind of like jump in there and be like, okay, this is my new teacher. Let's go.
Good. Yeah. Good. Well, yeah. Hopefully that didn't. There wasn't anything I did that scares you, because I know I'm large and ugly, and it's intimidating for some people to, you know, to do that, because I am what I am, and I try not to be overbearing, but I mean, they can hear me in town, and we're miles away right now. I don't even need the stupid mic, you know, and that carries with your presence, your energy does do that. So I have to be very careful about that. But I guess my point is this whole relationship thing is, you and I have a relationship. We have a relationship with a horse. The horse and I have a relationship. I mean, this all works. And then we're trying to peel this together. Of course, he doesn't know he's on camera. Doesn't matter.
No, he knows.
Yeah. But does he?
I can get brushed up and then he's like, oh, I'm on camera. I'm just going to be a butt.
You're probably right. You may be right. You know, something's going on here. That's funny. Calen, any thoughts along that from a third party type? Because you've never seen Ashley and I interact before, except, you know, over the teletraining.
Yeah.
And how that, but you've seen me, you know, with other people too.
Yeah, I bring a unique perspective though, because I know what you're gonna say, and I also know what you mean when you say certain things. Um, so it's hard for me to necessarily say that, you know, I see this and this is how I perceive it, because I just have a unique perspective compared to anybody else who's seen that interaction. But what's hard for me, and this is what I'm kind of leading towards, is I see something happen that the horse does, and I know what immediately I'm thinking the exact same thing you're about to say, and then you say it, because it's repetition. It's the amount of times I've done it that I recognize it, and Ashley's still getting used to some of this stuff. And then the hard part is not physically being there. I know you can't feed off of her energy, and you can't tell what's going on. And then, of course, there's the 400-mile lag across the telecommunications, which also increases the one, you're missing things, and two, it adds a level of difficulty to it, which is, it's unique, but it's also frustrating, because I'm seeing things, I know you're seeing things, and then trying to make sure that Ashley's getting it as close to real time as possible is so hard, because again, you've professed this multiple times. When it comes to especially horses, you have a split second to react. And if you go over that split second, they have no idea why you are reacting the way you are. If you discipline them for something they just did, but it's a second too late, you're disciplining them for potentially doing something good. And that's where it comes into, it's so frustrating. And I see that. I'm like, gosh, if you were just there and you could just be able to essentially sense the room, and then in this case, the corral, and then also react in time. Oh, did you see that? You need to react this way. Oh, because
Yeah.
I know Ashley's picking it up, and she's picking it up fast, but it takes probably twice as long as it normally would, because you're having to pick up those patterns in your ear while you're physically doing it. And you're like, well, why is he praising me? Oh, that's why. And it's taking that transfer time. It just, I see where you're doing a great job, but it's frustrating on my end, because again, I have that perspective. I'm like, oh, if he could only be there.
Yeah. And we've got like a 10 to 30 second delay on the camera. So like what happens for me in real time is happening 10 to 30 seconds later for him to see it. And he's like, oh, did you see that? And I'm like, well, yeah, that was like 10 seconds ago. We're already, two laps around. But for me, it's like, because I'm still learning what is right and what is wrong, it takes me a second to realize like, oh, wait, no, that's not what I want him to do. Now I have to correct him for it. And Brandon's like, oh, like get on him, be more assertive, be quicker about it. And I'm just like, okay, I needed to figure out that what he was doing was wrong in the first place. So then I can correct it. It's not just like, I'm not like getting on him. It's just that like I have to learn what he's doing right and what he's doing wrong, and then I have to be able to like translate it in that moment. So it's like I'm learning, Augie's learning, you know, the student becomes the teacher kind of thing.
Well, and that's
Well,
another
and
thing too is like I think of two specific horse behaviors that if there's a 10 to 30 second lag, I didn't realize it was that long. But if there's a 10 to 30 second lag, two specific horse behaviors movements that I can think of off the top of my head that are very subtle that you wouldn't pick up normally, and maybe you don't always because it is a specific camera angle, is a head nod, just ever so slight, and the flicker of an ear. That's all it is. And when you can't see all of that, that again adds to the difficulty.
there are huge barriers in the communication, and it's not between us necessarily the
Right.
spoken word. It is the time, and
Yeah.
timing is everything with training. And that's been part of the difficult thing. That you're right, it's been frustrating for me as it has been for Ashley for a different reason, because it's like, oh my God, I need to help her because I can't articulate what I've seen, which has already happened in the past for her. And am I saying exactly what if she can remember what it was or pick up on that? Are we talking about the same thing? And so, and then to be able to correct a horse within a half a second of that actually happening, it's what we're trying to do is nearly impossible to train and do a really fine job of very quick and finite training. So I can't tell you the number of times I've wanted to just jump in a car and I got to go over there this next session. Maybe I should be there. And it's like, no, that's not the point of this, right? Because I'm not communicating right. And I usually put that on myself because and you're right. I can't see in the camera very well. I can see, and I try to make this thing as big as we can. And the camera operator does a great job because you know what? The camera's not for me. It's for the audience.
Right.
And so we're trying to give a more omniscient type of look, an omnipotent look about what's going on, while we're trying to use the fine subtle communication so that we can correct it and do it. And you're right, I can't see always. I can usually see, sometimes I can see mouth movement. I can't see eye movement unless it's, you know, from that gross large picture. Ear movement is difficult. Like the other day, the tool she had, and it was just a whip. I thought she had the whip that I had left when I left. I said, this is the whip I use. I think it's that kind of purplish one. I said, this is the one. Yeah, and so I thought she had that in her hand because I can't see color.
Yeah.
You know, at that distance or through the camera. And so I thought, man, he is really locking up on her. He is being such a bugger that this is, I mean, he is just challenging her. And he was. I mean, that's part of it. But the reason she couldn't correct is she couldn't put enough pressure on it because she had a stick and a string instead of a whip. And then she changed and went to a better whip, but still was not quite as adequate as of course the one I like because I'm in control.
Yeah, I ended up finding that one because I guess someone had put it in the tack room. Like I had it out there when I was working with Mystery. That was that same purple one, and then we got a bunch of snow and it went missing. I was like, okay, I don't know, maybe an osprey ate it, whatever. But somebody put it in the tack room, and so I finally found it. So I brought it out with me last time, but I just I wanted to try that orange one that I found. It had a longer string on it. I was like, maybe this will be like a good snapper or whatever. But you were like, no, use that little one that has the thing at the end of it. So now that I have like the proper tool again to use, I'm more excited to go out there and try it again. Because I know like I'm not just going to be hitting them with a wet noodle. Like I'm actually going to be doing something to make them get to it.
Right. And for audience members that are watching and don't understand that, and they see you pop a horse on the shoulder or pop them on the butt, and we normally don't have to touch the horse. It's just being behind them. I mean, that's part of the energy. But sometimes when a horse escalates to the point where they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing and what you do doesn't work, you need to escalate that because they'll reach over with each other and they'll kick each other. They'll bite each other. I mean, they're brutally
other than I ever could be on him. Like, you know, I'm kind of smacking him with the whip and like, you know, I give him pats on the shoulder harder than I hit him with the whip. Like,
right.
I'm not hurting him. And it's just like, he's bringing that upon himself. If he was listening, I wouldn't have to hit him.
There you go. You know, and it is such a challenge because of the technology, even though the technology is quite good I think. I mean, this is amazing that we can sit here and do this. You guys have grown up with these kinds of things. I never saw a computer till I was in college. You know,
Right.
so this is to me amazing, but it's still way inadequate to what we really need. And I think Suzanne recognizes that. I think some of the audience recognizes that as well. They don't recognize the fine-tune type of importance that we have on when we need to make adjustments and the timing of it. But we tend to talk about that anyway, so we try to build that in at times. But it's still it's second best to being there, you know, for me, and it's frustrating for me as well. And sometimes I come away from it going, "Oh God, I hope she doesn't quit because I couldn't have articulated it." But one thing I wanted to a rabbit hole. Pardon me. We started to go down to, and it wasn't a rabbit hole. It was a very good question about what you do to increase or maybe decrease or to self-evaluate. And you said you watch a lot of videos, and if anybody's been to one of my clinics, they'll ask me a question and I'll say, you know what, anything I tell you, I will tell you why I do it. And it's from the horse behavior perspective or their psychology. I said I'll never tell you do something just because I tell you to do it. That's the way to do it. No, I need to know why. I would want to know why. So when you, and I told people, well, you need to go to as many clinics as you can. If you can afford them, go to them. You're going to learn some really good things to do, but you're also going to learn some really bad things or things that you should never, ever do. One's as valuable as the other. And I'm not shy about this. And go and look, do that. And you've obviously done that, but you're searching, to me, it sounds like you're searching more for those kind of energy type videos or communication has taken place, which is, it's good.
And I want different perspectives on how they were raised in the horse world and how they've worked with horses and what kind of energy they bring to the table. You know, it's good to have just kind of like a more well-rounded education. In fact, like when I was in school, I never got good grades in math. They taught out of the book. They taught, this is the formula. This is you use it here. And this is how you get the answer. And I was like, well, why? And nobody could ever explain that. So my whole life, I, basically almost failed algebra. And it wasn't until I got to like my freshman year of college and I had this algebra teacher that finally could explain to me why we use these formulas. What does it mean? Where do I get this number from? Why do I need to use it here? Why is that going to get me my answer? And she finally went through it. And that was the first time in my life I got an A in algebra because she could explain to me why I needed to use that in that situation.
Purpose.
Yeah. I need a sense of purpose.
Sounds like kind of a foundational thing for me, on anything you do, right? So no, and that's great. You never went through college. I never went through college with one instructor.
Right.
Why would you do that? The whole idea is an exchange of information from different perspectives, different people, different ideas. I mean, I think we're kind of getting away from that, but that's the whole point. Get as many perspectives out there as you possibly can, because you can use and take and steal anything you can. I've called it cookie cutter training.
Yeah.
Program training doesn't work for every horse, and that's the problem. So yeah, that's good. Keep that up. Don't let that go. And if you ever have a question of me, don't ask it, because no, I'm just kidding. If you ever have a question, challenge me. I love to be challenged, because to me that challenge gives me the opportunity to really go super deep in depth of what this horse is thinking, why I think this horse is thinking that, and what is going on. It really opens up a whole area of not just glossing over, oh, this behavior, we did this, and so we need to kind of make him do this because of this. We can really open that up, and we can spend tons of time. We've done that. I mean, we've sat around, talking about this on numerous occasions with the boys in their own training. It gives you more of a perspective. Obviously, it's just that horse at that moment, but it's still valuable to carry other places. So,
well, and I would also say that watching videos is it's very similar to, pro football teams. They do scouting of the team that they're going to play that week, or when they do their camps, they video themselves so that they can, especially like quarterbacks, they get into their stance, how they're throwing, and I'm using just sports because that's easy, but you do that with yourself as well. I've done it with getting on the horse, with the getting into the saddle and whatnot. And even though I was like, okay, I'm doing this right, and then you watch yourself, you're like, oh boy, like I don't look nearly as good as I think I do. And then that's just with like getting into a saddle. But then you're working a horse or something like that. Like you watch yourself, and that's a good way to also self-reflect, kind of what you've been talking about, and identify either where you're doing really well or you're not doing so well, and where you can improve. And then that ultimately is going to help the horse. And again, going back to energy, make sure, oh, okay, I remember this part. Here's what I was thinking at this moment. And maybe that's why it influenced the way the horse did when they did that. And that just being able to understand the full context because you're watching yourself helps a whole lot better.
Yeah, I remember when my brother was in high school and he was playing football, he was like, why do I have to go to film at 8 a.m. on a Saturday? Yeah. And it's like, because you have to watch back what you were doing. You see what you did right, you see what you did wrong. And I even do the same thing. I said in my little intro, I've been weightlifting for like 3 years now, pretty consistently. And in the beginning, I would take like little videos and then I would go back and watch it. And I would watch other, like more professional weightlifters or trainers or whatever, and compare my form to theirs and be like, okay, my knees are off here. My back is too arched. I'm using my back instead of my legs. So it's all about like going back and reflecting on what you did right and what you did wrong. So that way you can go forward with the correct information.
There's no better coach than you, right, if you get it right. Self-reflection is so powerful because it's not only, we can internalize everything. We can't see ourselves from the outside, but when we see ourselves from the outside, that is huge when you can do both of those things, because then you have it so personalized and you're not looking at someone else's ego, or they're trying to teach you something. You are in total taking it from yourself for yourself.
Well, and like you said, for Ashley's point, it's safety, but then it's also just making sure that you've got it, the whole context. Like I had said before, because I can have a coach, I can have my dad sit there and tell me what's going on and explain, did you see this? This is why they're doing that. Okay, you've done this before. Remember that? Oh yeah, you're right. But then again, the context of, I thought of something that was completely irrelevant to the situation at that particular moment, and it affected the way the horse or those people that I was talking to just reacted. And that's why okay, I see. That makes sense now. And I think that's part of why, going to what Dad said of you are your best coach, is because you can provide that full context and know exactly what happened and why it happened that way.
Yeah. And now I can realize when I do something wrong, or I'm not, asking in the correct way or moving in the correct way, I can hear his voice in my head being like, oh, it should be this way, not that way. But I'm also recognizing when I am doing something wrong. Now I can pick up, I can tell when I'm not asking correctly.
That is one of the most important things, because now you're starting to evaluate what you're doing as you're doing it in real time. That's where it's at. That's one of the most important things. I had a brilliant thought there too.
While you're thinking of your brilliant thought,
I got it back. Okay. It's not a thought, but I can tell when I first work with somebody, for instance, like in a round corral, and this happens at clinics all the time when we're doing round corral work. We talk about energy because I'm free about it now. I talk about it openly. When I'm in there with somebody and I'm usually behind them, trying to stay out of their way, but I'm giving that perspective, and I'm in their ear, but I'm right behind them. And we're working, and all of a sudden that horse will really stop, or they'll really slow down, and you can really see it. And I'll stop and go, what did you just think? And people say, I'm thinking about where I'm going to stop this horse.
And they stop.
That moment, yes, and that's what they're doing. That horse is reading you. You are now connected. And these people go, oh, this giant light bulb comes on, because that horse is reacting in real time. They didn't even change what they were doing. But it was very subtle, but the horse was picking up on it. And so that has happened hundreds of times. That has happened, and people go, and which is a cool moment for that to happen. And it's a giant breakthrough where people then are evaluating themselves for the first time what they did to affect that horse without being really overt about it.
And I've had that happen to me now, and I notice it happening where I'm just like, okay, what's my next move? I'm going to ask him to stop soon so that way I can do the next thing. But then he starts slowing down or he comes to a stop. And I'm like, no, I didn't ask you to stop. I just thought about it.
That's it. Thoughts are things. Thoughts are things.
Thoughts are things.
That was my next question too, is have you, Ashley, before working with Suzanne and at the Dunrovin Ranch, had you worked with gaited horses at all before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And this is perfect, because have you started figuring out how to manage and manipulate their gaits yet?
No, I haven't gotten a whole lot of riding under my belt. There was a time where like we were doing the horsing around over the summer, and then it kind of just like got to the winter time. We just had a lot of chores to do. So I just kind of had like put a pause on riding. But no, she had always asked me like if I was going to do anything with the gaiting, she would rather be out there with me coaching me.
Yeah.
But I also like to figure it out for myself too. So I'm kind of like stuck in the middle somewhere. I do want to get back into it, especially since we've had such a mild winter. I can go out in the arena and just go for a couple laps. So,
and that's good, because I think you're going to benefit if, first of all, Dad can be there to help you with it, because it's something that, coming from a non-gated world and not understanding gaits with horses, and then suddenly getting thrown into that, it's a whole, like Dad and I were talking about this the other day for some other episodes. It's like having a bigger transmission on your car. You suddenly gone from 4 speeds to 8. And that's kind of the best way I can put it. And going into energy and how your body can, without you even really doing it, because thoughts are things, suddenly you'll alter a gait and you didn't even realize it. And that, I'll tell you what, when you start figuring out how to, okay, this is what this gait feels like, this is what it is, this is what this gait feels like, this is what it is, you're going to start figuring out right away, oh, I'm thinking I want to do this, and your body's going to move just ever so slightly in the saddle, and it's going to make you a better rider, because you're going to start moving in the saddle a certain way, and you're going to immediately shift that horse, and you didn't even know you did it.
One of the things that we did when I was over there and met Ashley that first time is we worked a little bit with one of the horses, Mystery. She rode him. That's when she wasn't breathing.
Yeah.
But that was more of a function of, she was just trying to control him. And it's like, okay, you need to breathe.
Yeah.
And then when she did, he came down, and then she was starting to achieve, and we were working a little bit. We had maybe, do we have a half an hour of maybe, and she was starting to achieve some gait. But you know how difficult that is when you come from a non-gated world into a gated world, and you have a horse that's got a high energy horse anyway, and she's not breathing, so they're kind of escalating, or at least maintaining a high energy. And then she started to breathe, and he started to come down, and then started to perform for her. But by that time, we'd wound him up, and then we were going the other direction to unwind him, and she was starting to pick that up and could feel some gaits. But it was very, very just an introduction to that is all. So, but that was a good lesson. And you know what, how I do controls this horse and can control their gait as well. So, a whole different context, same foundation, but different context.
Well, and another thing too is, Ashley, were you not breathing because of the energy or because of the speed? Because I know some people, they think the horse is taking off on them when they're really not. It's just, again, it's a higher walk.
It was the energy. And Mystery, his last ride, I think with Ant, the guy who was going to buy him, Ant fell off of him. And because he didn't get him cinched up all the way, he just kind of hopped on in the tack area, doing things that he shouldn't be doing. And so I just didn't want to be the next one to pick up after that. But I did. So I was kind of nervous. I was like, but I've never seen him take off on somebody. I've never seen him, rear or buck or go crazy or anything like that. It was just all these thoughts in my head of okay, what could go wrong? And then the what ifs. Yeah. And then, so I know he is a little bit faster, which I've ridden Arabians. They're crazy as it is. So it wasn't the speed that was, throwing me off. It was just kind of okay, I don't know what's going to happen with this horse. I don't know if he is going to take off on me. So I stopped breathing, and I got nervous, which then a couple months later, I went to my friend's house, and he has 2 quarter horses. One of them is his roommate's, and she doesn't like really ride her anymore. And they were telling me like beforehand, they were like, oh, she's kind of crazy. Like she might crow hop on you. She might try and take off. But I got on her and I was walking her up and down the hill, and she's crow hopping. She's like going all back and forth, whatever. And I was just like, no, calm down. We're fine. So, I mean, since then I've kind of learned that like, it really is my energy and my persona that's going to control how they're feeling, because they just want to be able to trust you. They want to know that you're the leader, that you are going to keep them safe, and keep them going. So that's all it is. I could keep going all day on this, but I do got to get going.
Okay. Well, Ashley, we really appreciate you coming and joining us for today. And you are more than welcome to come again at any time, and we can discuss anything you choose. We really like talking to you about everything with Days at Dunrovin, and we hope you come back.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be your first guest.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow, Ashley.
See ya.
Dad, you want to sign us off?
All right. I think since we can't pay you, well, thank you till you're better paid.